It's like when my YouTube channel was just starting out and it was making a small amount of money here and there, it was like, oh, that's cool. It'd be cool to make maybe £100 here and there. Then it started making £100 here and there. I was like, oh, that's cool. But look at those channels that maybe have millions of subscribers. Like, I wonder how much money they're making. And what I like that Morgan reminds us of is that we actually do need to recognize when enough is enough and not be continuously trying to pursue growth just for its own sake. And in the book, he gives a bunch of examples of really rich people doing very dodgy and shady things to chase even more money. Like Bernie Madoff, for example, who was already ridiculously rich, but then built this pyramid scheme to try and become even more ridiculously rich and ended up in prison as a result of it. And what Morgan says is that it's really about asking the question of when is enough enough?
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 351. Hope you are amazing as always. And if you notice anything different about the quality of the audio today, the mic, this is my travel mic. We're about to jump on a plane tomorrow, changing countries, and I don't always tell people what country I live in and all the rest of it. I do those things for myself, but it's, for 20 years I've been bouncing around the world. Do you know that I haven't spent more than 6 months in any country in probably 10 to 15 years, probably, if we add it up. Usually about 90 days, and I like to move. So we're moving tomorrow, Latin America, which should be so much fun. My Spanish sucks, but we'll get there. So I just want to let you know, in case the sound quality isn't perfect. And speaking of perfect, you're going to love today's episode. You really are, because do you know what? Especially with the way inflation is right now, especially the way where the economy is, I think in a good way, right? And the way the state of the world is, it's in a good place for people who evolve, people who jump on the digital bandwagon, if you want to call it that, people who really and utterly know that the future is this. It's podcast, it's video footage, it's building your personal brand, right? And why do we do this? Well, to make money. Yes, to help people. Of course, the number one priority must be that. But then it's about money. And about money for what? Well, you could have money for bling bling stuff. You can have money for safety. You can have a bank full of money and no bling bling, right? It just depends on what you want to do. But the biggest thing I've found with entrepreneurs, especially when you're scaling, say you're moving from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8 plus figures, often it's the person's real belief or what visuals are programmed in their brain and what emotion it's connected to around a business of that level, right? So even from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, but even if we look from 5 to 6, that's a huge mindset jump, right? And I'm sure everybody listening or most people have gone through that jump, right? And it is a jump. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a certain level of focus. You have to have organization. You have to have potentially a team, right? You have to have a well-established brand. But what happens then from 6 to 7 figures? That's where you start to get recognized as a personal brand or a brand individually, right? So whether that's McDonald's a brand or if Ronald himself, besides the McDonald's bit, had his own Instagram account and he could sell anything from it, then that'd be your personal brand. Not that I eat McDonald's. I don't even eat meat, but hey, whatever. You get the joke. You get the analogy. I was going to say joke, but you get the analogy. So really, the biggest thing that holds people back is that value and therefore then their belief, right? The belief hangs off the value. So money, right? And we're not educated about money in general as the general population, right? The rich get educated about money, which means then they understand money and can play the game of money. But for the average person, it's not taught, right? Now, there's more information in the world around this than there's ever been in the history of all mankind, and hence why I'm doing a podcast episode on it, and I'm using a clip from some other awesome person's podcast, and guess what? That's how this day and age works, right? We grab content, and what do? We repurpose it, and that could be your own, it could be other people's, because everybody's got a different opinion. So what I wanted to go through today is, we'll see how many we get through, but it's the understanding around money. Now, money, besides being something we get for a transaction, it's also, I really believe, a mindset. And a mindset meaning that what is our reality that we're living in around money? Is it scarcity? Is it just abundance? Is it belief that you can create $100 million business? Is it belief that you can only do 5 figures? The market's down, or you've been ripped off in the past, or or we going back to real old school where we were taught the money doesn't grow on trees, but it does, right? So what is it? What is it for you? Because if you're not in absolute abundant flow, then there is issues around you receiving money. And that means, I'm not talking about energetically, although I am talking about energetically. What I'm talking about is putting a brand, concept, product or service out to the world, and then marketing it with such belief that other people feel it, that they want to be part of it, because you're leading that brand. Does that make sense? So that's a big difference. So you've got to ask the question for yourself, where are you at? What do you believe? What's the truth around money in your life? Always interesting questions, right? You've got to ask those questions to yourself. That's how we grow, evolve. That's how we become self-aware. That's how we can reconnect patterns in the brain, in our business, in our life. And, that's where it starts. The inside world creates the outside world. The outside world does not create the inside world. So think about that. And while you're thinking about that, where are you at? What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is, where are you at on your journey to create freedom? Really is. Where are you at on your journey to create freedom? I'm actually about to put out a free audio, which is badass, and I should be charging, or maybe I will, but I'll put it out for free at the start. I'm really thinking about what the name is. And it's a hypnosis audio, if you want to call it that, an install brainwave, whatever the heck you're comfortable with, right? But we take you down into the unconscious mind, and I retrain the patterns using language, yes, hypnotic language, NLP language. It's way more than guided meditation, which some people, if they don't understand the neurolinguistics behind it, get confused about. But it's going to be your 1 million meditation or $100 million meditation. I don't know. Give me some feedback. Maybe I'll split test both of those. But the reason is, if you can't see it, the likelihood of you having it is very small, right? Including $100 million. I'm not saying to get $100 million, but why not? If you could literally create anything that you want in this reality, why wouldn't you pull in $100 million, right? If you can't see it in your head, you can't have it. Make sense? So that's what we're going to be putting out. But in the meantime, I don't know where you're at on your journey to create freedom. Are you building a digital brand right now? I don't know. If you are, you must be around me and Ryan Alford. Ryan Alford's one of the top marketers in the world, worked with Apple, Verizon, NFL, everyone you can imagine. Me and him have teamed up. We created something called the Radical Formula. Brand and brain engineering, personal brand engineering. And this is about how to turn your content and your brand into 7 figures. That's it, right? So we got lots of things coming out. We got masterclasses, which are going to be 2-day things. We've got our Mastermind, which is going to be over 12 months. And we've got lots of other cool stuff coming out. We've got the podcast launching. We've got loads of cool stuff. So theradicalformula.com website should be up. If not, it's going to be up in the matter of days, and then you've got access to free trainings, all the rest of it. So go and check that out, theradicalformula.com. Okay, if you are a trader, options, forex, stocks, whatever the heck you're into, even crypto, you want what will be the world's #1 foundational mental performance system for amateurs to pro to gain complete control over their performance and hit 7 figures and freedom. That's around trading. So I had a meeting with some of the guys who were joining the Mastermind, and last night with actually Cam from the Genius Trader. Yes, that's the product, the Genius Trader Club. But Cam from Trader Nut, who I launched this thing with. And it was cool. We had loads of people on. It was a lot of fun. Found out a lot of things about everybody, what people are going through. And yeah, we're going to be putting out a masterclass and then a mastermind really, really soon. So you can jump in and actually get the foundational training system right now because it's on crazy discount. So go to thegeniustrader.club. That's it. Those are the 2 things I've got for you today. I've got lots of other things coming out, but why don't you go to theradicalformula.com, join our VIP list, jump in there because everything's going about to launch, and then thegeniustrader.club, and you can get that course and right now, but you can also get some kick-ass training there. So just go there. Speaking of going there, let's jump in today's episode. Make sure you're hitting those show notes up for all the links or go into those domains right now. Otherwise, I will see you at the end of the show.
We're going to do this in 4 parts. So we're going to talk about lessons about our attitudes towards money, lessons about getting money, lessons about spending money, and then lessons about protecting our money once we've gotten it. Part 1, 3 lessons about our attitudes towards money. So the first lesson I got from the book was that everyone has different attitudes towards money. And because the way that those attitudes affects the way that they earn and spend their money, we shouldn't be too quick to judge people based on what they do with their own money. So let's think about people's behavior when it comes to investing in stocks, for example. If you were born in the 1970s, the S&P 500, which is the index fund that tracks the top 500 biggest companies in the US, that increased by 10 times its starting amount between age 13 and age 30 for you. But if you were born just 20 years earlier, the market basically went nowhere. So these 2 groups of people are going to go through life with radically different ideas of how the stock market works. And obviously these views are going to affect how they behave. Like people born in the 1970s are much more likely to invest in stocks than people born in the 1950s for whom they think the stock market doesn't really do anything. And so for example, for someone like me, it can seem a bit weird. Like why don't more people just invest in the S&P 500? It just keeps on going up. Why don't more people invest in crypto? But what I realized after reading the book is that, to be honest, I need to not be a dick about it because people have different attitudes to money depending on their own circumstances.
Okay, crew, let me jump in there. It's quite interesting for a start, right? About the difference between the different demographics of the age. It's really interesting, right? And we can go a little bit deeper than that. I mean, we've all got our own personal experiences about investing. I know when I was growing up, my dad tried so many different things to make money, and he really tried hard. And just because he didn't understand money, well, what that means is then people can take advantage. So you end up having a wrong experience. The same with the business, right? Same with the business failing or kicking ass. You end up having different experience about what's possible. I remember actually visiting my niece in the UK years ago, and it was funny because one of her parents' friends or something or other, anyway, was talking. They were like, "Oh, you should never open a business. You should never open a business." And I'm like, literally going, "Okay, why?" And they were like, "Well, I opened a business once with my partner, and it was a coffee shop, and it failed." I'm like, okay, maybe you just sucked at marketing. Maybe you just sucked at branding. Maybe you just sucked at customer care. Maybe the actual product sucked. So really, this isn't about business, is it? This is about you. and that means then they were trying to portray that message over to my niece, and then I'm like, no, come over here, look what I'm up to. And do you know what I mean? So that creates such a different reality for that person. So you've got to look at your own life and really ask the question, what is it that my experience from the past has created that I'm still playing in my head, although I know it's not true?
Lesson number 2 is don't underestimate the importance of luck when it comes to making money, because basically any outcome that we're going for, whether it's making money or anything else in life, is some combination of luck and skill and unfair advantages. If we take Bill Gates, for example, now he's obviously super talented, but he was also pretty lucky to get to go to one of the very few high schools in the US that actually owned a computer. And that's what helped him start messing around with coding and start working on the company that ultimately became Microsoft. And so Morgan's point in the book is that we shouldn't focus too much on the individuals. We shouldn't look too closely at what did Elon Musk do to get rich? What did Bill Gates do to get rich? We should instead look at the broader patterns that try and account for this fact that different people got lucky at different times.
Okay, let me jump in there. I love what he's saying, and he's absolutely right, you know? But he's also wrong, but he's also right. Let me explain what I mean. So, for example, yes, Bill Gates absolutely grew up in a privileged environment, that he was able to go to specific schools, get access to specific computers, and that's how he got the idea to create Microsoft. Absolutely. You know, that's luck, that's synchronicity, that's divine timing, whatever the heck you want to call it, for sure. But guess what? So many other people in that school had access to that computer too. Do you know what I mean? Of course they did, right? How many people created Microsoft? Oh, Bill, right? Who had access to the computer, who many other people had access to too. So yes, the environment or the luck, absolutely. But I really believe we make our own luck. So was it lucky that he was in that environment with a computer? Absolutely. But was it lucky that he just decided to work his ass off for 7 days for like a decade? No, of course it wasn't. There was no luck in that. He was obsessed. And obsessed is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful word. You know, but we just got to point it and direct it in the right way. So he became obsessed with growth, obsessed with an image he had in his head. And that's why he was lucky. You know, so there's two components to that. So I agree, but don't agree. So should you analyze somebody about how they achieve that? Well, again, I slightly disagree. Yeah, it depends on what we're analyzing. If we're analyzing the external factors, then no, the external factors was that he was lucky enough to be in the right time, the right place with the right product. But the other side of it is, if we analyzed how he thinks, what his beliefs were, what his decisions were, what his attitudes were, what did he do when he was tired, what did he do when something went wrong, what did he do with communication with the teammate, that's very, very different. You know what I mean?
Lesson number 3 from the book is that we should learn to say this is enough. Now, it's natural for us as humans to keep on moving our goalposts. Like once we achieve our goals, whether it's financial goals or career goals or hot bod goals or pretty girl goals, we always look forward to the next goal. And generally the cycle doesn't end because we keep on comparing ourselves to the people who are above us in this invisible ladder. Now, this lesson really resonated with me because I've been chasing this entrepreneurship thing since like the age of 13, trying to make money on the internet, and started off making basically zero money, and then slowly over time, my income has basically compounded to the point where I am way beyond the point that any reasonable person would say that this is enough. But what I've been finding is that the comparator group keeps on changing. It's like when my YouTube channel was just starting out and it was making a small amount of money here and there, it was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it'd be cool to make maybe £100 here and there. Then it started making £100 here and there. I was like, oh, that's cool. But look at those channels that maybe have millions of subscribers. Like, I wonder how much money they're making. And what I like that Morgan reminds us of is that we actually do need to recognize when enough is enough and not be continuously trying to pursue growth just for its own sake. And in the book, he gives a bunch of examples of really rich people doing very dodgy and shady things to chase even more money. Like Bernie Madoff, for example, who was already ridiculously rich, but then built this pyramid scheme to try and become even more ridiculously rich and ended up in prison as a result of it. And what Morgan says is that it's really about asking the question of when is enough enough? Do I really need this extra thing? And there's a nice quote where he says, there is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. And this lesson actually applied in my life fairly recently. So my housemate, Sheen, if you might remember from previous videos, moved to Dubai. And I was strongly thinking, why don't I move to Dubai? And I spoke to my accountant and he was talking about the low tax rates and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, ooh, I could wind down the company in the UK, move to Dubai, like not live in the UK for 3 years to become tax resident outside of the UK, become tax resident in Dubai where I don't pay any corporation tax or VAT or income tax and all this stuff, and then I'd be making twice as much money because I have to pay half as much tax. And I had all these thoughts going in my head. And it was around that time that I read The Psychology of Money and started figuring out what are my values in life and stuff. And I realized that that is just like stupid thinking. I did not need that extra money. I quite like being in the UK. I like the fact that my friends and family are here. And I'd be sacrificing a large amount of stability here in the UK for the sake of just chasing a little bit more money, but effectively tax avoidance in Dubai. And so ultimately I decided against it. Thank you, Morgan, for the tip on that front.
Okay, again, I've got lots of opinions about this, this whole clip that I'm going through right now, because I do appreciate and love what the guy's saying, but also let's think bigger. So what he's talking about then is money. He's specifically talking about money, yes, but money also creates a lot more opportunities. So to me, when moving to Dubai, it's nothing to do with tax evasion. It's to do with network growth. Because what game do you want to play, right? We're not talking about money. We're talking about the game, and we're talking about impact. Impact. More money can create more impact. Can, depending on who you are, right? So people in Dubai, if you had an idea to create an eco resort, if you had an idea to change the world, if you had an idea to be able to create charities, a massive philanthropy, do you think that the people that you have access to in Dubai are financially capable of making that happen more than the UK? Well, yes. Yes, they are. It doesn't matter. The people that we're talking about in the UK at that level are very few and far between compared to people who are in Dubai at that level, right? Now, yes, we're dealing with culture. Yes, we're dealing with those things. Now, that guy's priority was extremely different to the impact he can have on the world. So to me, he's actually thinking quite small. He's thinking about money, and that's great because the conversation's about money. But what you really should be thinking about is how much money am I able to handle to be able to create the biggest impact in the world. So one of the things that I did a couple of episodes ago was Mr. Beast, right? The #1 YouTuber in the world, who basically takes his money, pumps it back into the videos, and so then those videos now fund philanthropy, and he's helping millions and millions of people get fed, right? That's just the start of his venture. So he's not using that money to buy Ferraris and blingy. No, he's doing the opposite. He's pumping it in, and the more money he gets, the more impact he can create. So for this guy, it's a case of awesome. Live your life. It's not all about, just live your life, man. Whatever you think is right. But missing family and friends, to me, I don't know. I've traveled the world for 20 years. You're always missing somebody from somewhere else, or someone from whatever country is missing you, right? Even if you live in the UK, I'm sure he doesn't live with his family. So guess what? He's probably 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away. Are you seeing them every day? No. So it's still the same thing. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on that. Let's jump to the next one.
Part 2, lessons about getting money. All right, so this is obviously not a video on how to make money from scratch. You can check out my video on 9 passive income ideas if you want more information about that. But Morgan does have some very solid chapters about how we actually get rich. So lesson 4 is to appreciate the magic of compounding. So let's say I put $1,000 into the S&P 500 index fund and I get a decent return of about 10% per year. That'll give me $1,100 by the start of year 2, which means I'm then earning 10% on the $1,100, so that at the start of year 3, I'll have $1,210. And as this compounds over time, you're basically earning interest or gains on your interest or gains. And when you start playing with the big numbers here, the results are absolutely insane. Now, the example that Morgan uses in the book is Warren Buffett, who is famously very rich. And at the time that the book was written, Warren Buffett's net worth was around $84.5 billion. But of that $84.5 billion, $84.2 billion of it actually came after his 50th birthday. And of that amount, $81 billion of it came after his 60th birthday. And one of the reasons that Warren Buffett was able to get so much wealth is that he started young and he kept going. Like, he started investing at the age of 10, such that by the age of 30, he had $1 million in investments. And then he just absolutely kept on going well into his, I think he's like 90 something now. And there's some good maths in the book that shows that 99.9% of Warren Buffett's wealth came as a result of compounding, because he started early and he just did it for absolutely ages. And there's a really nice quote from the book that describes Warren Buffett's success with this. Morgan writes that none of the 2,000 books picking apart Buffett's success are titled, "This guy has been investing consistently for 3/4 of a century." But we know that that's the key to the majority of his success. It's just hard to wrap your head around that maths because it's not intuitive. Lesson number 5 is to try and save as much as you can even when you don't have a specific reason to save. Morgan writes that building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns and lots to do with your savings rate. So we naturally think that saving is basically income minus expenses. But Morgan says that the other way of thinking about it is that savings equals income minus ego. Now this is quite interesting. I think it's an interesting way of looking at our expenses. Like, if I look at my own spending, how much of that spending is actually necessary and how much of it is based on ego? I don't know. Maybe you can decide. And he also talks about how really our savings rate is the only variable in this equation that we can really control. Like, I can't really control how much money I'm making. I can to an extent, but not really. I can't at all control the returns of the stock market or the returns of Bitcoin or the returns of the real estate market, but I can absolutely control how much money, what percentage of my income I'm saving myself. And there's a related point that I came across from Balaji, who was interviewed in Tim Ferriss's podcast recently, where he says that if you can have a very high savings rate and you can keep your own personal expenses very low, like you need little money to survive and thrive, then it actually gives you a lot more freedom in life, because there are a lot of people that are tied to jobs that they don't necessarily enjoy because they now have lifestyles that require them to have that high income from the job that they don't necessarily enjoy. And kind of the point is, what's the point of being miserable in your job for 80,000 hours of your life, kind of for most of the time that you spend alive? What's the point of being miserable in that for the sake of having a fancy house and having a fancy car? It's probably not worth the trade-off. And so really, if we can just lower our personal expense rate, increase our personal savings rate in whatever fashion we can, that gives us more anti-fragility, more freedom, more autonomy to kind of do more of the things that we actually want.
This last point is, I absolutely, completely agree. You know what I mean? There's a gentleman out there who runs amazing.com. I used to, his business partner used to work with me, Jason Katzenbach, the Amazon selling machine, or the amazing selling machine. It's one of the biggest Amazon selling companies in the world. And yeah, what was amazing is that Matt was young when he got a lot of money, and he basically, to cut a long story short, through all his lessons anyway, he just does everything cash. Everything. His house cash, his car cash, life cash, right? And that means he's got no debt. And that means, guess what he said? He gives it, do you know the level of stress that's taken off your shoulders when you don't have any bills at the end of the month besides your food and water? Something to be said about that, right? Alex Hormozi, who I've had on the, done clips on the show about, he talks about, he was earning back in the day, he was earning 20K a month, and he was sharing a 2-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean? Actually, he was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment. He was sharing the room because he worked so much, and he was paying like $300 a month. Mr. Beast, who I was talking about, YouTube dude, he up until recently shared a house, a 2-bedroom apartment, and he was paying $370 or something a month. You know what I mean? He's earning millions. What do we want? What do we want? Now, obviously, with interest rates, right, with inflation rates, I should say, that your cash isn't worth anywhere near as what it was. That's just inflation, right? That's why they talk about cash is trash. It is, but it's also, you know what I mean? You just make more money. And that's something that I believe is in our control. When he says it's not, I believe it is. Now, I understand what he's talking about. We can not spend instantly, but we are in control of the direction of our income stream and what's possible. But I understand what he's saying. You know what I mean? We can't tangibly go, I'm going to do this and that today. And we don't know what's going to happen when we're marketing and branding, right? But we can not buy that coffee. We can not buy that thing, right? So I love what he's saying.
Lesson number 6 from the book is to focus on not screwing up rather than on making big gains. So let's imagine 2 investors, Sue and Jim. Sue invests $1 into the stock market every single month, no matter what. Whereas what Jim does is that he invests money into the stock market as it's going up, and then he sells his stocks as it's going down, and he's trying to play the market in that sense. This is what Sue's portfolio looks like over time, and unfortunately, this is what Jim's portfolio looks like over time. And the reason why Sue ends up better off than Jim is not because she made big gains, it's because she consistently did not screw up by selling her stocks in like a downturn. And the other interesting point here is that when it comes to thinking about how we're spending and investing our money, getting it wrong is a lot worse for for us than getting it right. Because if we lose money, we can then no longer go back into the game and we actually have consequences on our life. Whereas if we make twice as much money or twice as much as that or twice as much as that, like there are significant diminishing returns to the value of extra money that we get. And so Morgan's point basically is, to like think about the long term and try not to lose money rather than thinking, oh my God, I need to chase that next Ponzi scheme or that next, Dogecoin is going to the moon, therefore I'm going to put stuff in there. It's far more important to just focus on not screwing up and not losing money and doing that consistently over time so that you can actually benefit from compounding. All right, let's turn to part 3, which is lessons about spending money. And then lesson number 7 is use money to buy freedom. And he talks about how really the true value of money is in the flexibility and the optionality that it gives us rather than the fact that it helps us buy a fancy house or a fancy car. He writes that money's greatest intrinsic value, and this cannot be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time. Using your money to buy time and options has a lifestyle benefit that few luxury goods can compete with. And the reason for this is that at the end of the day, we all just want to be happy and live a happy and meaningful life. And tons of studies have shown that your income has significant diminishing returns on your personal life satisfaction or happiness from life. And that beyond a point, depending on who you ask, it's around about $75,000 in the US. Beyond a certain point, more money stops buying you further increases in happiness. And so ultimately, given that time is our most valuable non-renewable resource, we can always make more money, but we can never make more time. Using our own money to buy extra time, to buy our freedom, is a very good use of that money rather than spending it on pointless luxury crap that we don't actually need.
So let me jump in there, crew. Again, it goes back to that last point, right? Money equals freedom. And what do we want? We want time freedom. That's really what we want. Everybody's searching for everything so you can just go and lay on the beach or travel as you want and just do life as you want from morning to night. And unfortunately, society has trained everybody's psychology so deeply that we get external validation, right? So that's the only way that we've been taught to feel good. We purchase this, other people think it's awesome, they tell you, you feel good. Without that external thing, those people can't tell you you're good, so then you're not good. Make sense? So that's the same thing with everything in life. The only validation that you should ever need is from you. That's it. There's nothing else. It's from you. The only validation is from you. You know if you've done your best, right? You know if you've done right or wrong. You know if you've given it everything you've got. Only you know. The only validation should come from you. So, that being said, is it nice to have a nice car? Sure, absolutely. But it should be for you. If you're already happy, then the car will make you happier. If you're not happy and buy the car to feel happy, then the happiness won't last. Right? Does that make sense? And the car just becomes an annoyance or an expense. But at the end of the day, if we understood that the main goal that we want, because we're so confident inside of ourselves, is freedom, then every dollar we'd be putting in our bank would be heading towards freedom. Make sense? So you got to ask yourself, what choice am I making now? Am I building my freedom or am I building my bling? Probably a good title for a book, right?
Lesson number 8 is that getting wealthy is very different to staying wealthy. Now here, Morgan writes that getting money requires taking risks, being optimistic and putting yourself out there, but keeping money requires the opposite of taking risks. It requires humility and fear that what you've made can be taken away from you just as fast. And I was kind of thinking about this as I was thinking about basically these days, how much of my investment portfolio to take out of stocks and real estate and just put into crypto. So crypto is obviously highly volatile and could go up significantly. I have reasonably high conviction that it will. But I still have a decent chunk of savings in investments in stocks and shares and in real estate. And reminding myself that right now, my aim is not to continue to make more money. My aim is actually to keep the money that I have and grow it slowly. That means I want to be nicely diversified across these different asset classes. And so I do have a fairly significant chunk of my portfolio, I think like 30 or 40%, 30%, probably 30% in crypto, more on that in a future video coming. But I am not withdrawing all of my stock market returns and all of my kind of real estate investments to put money into crypto. That would be a bad decision. And even though it might go up, it's like, if it goes down, then that will significantly negatively affect my life in a far greater way than if it just goes up 10x or goes to the moon, for example. Lesson number 9 from the book is don't be a flashy twat. So Morgan writes to his son, you might think you want an expensive car or a fancy watch and a huge house. But I'm telling you, you don't. What you want is respect and admiration from other people, and you think that having expensive stuff will bring it. It almost never does, especially from the people that you actually want to respect and admire you. Now, there's two main reasons for this, and the first one is the man in the car paradox. The idea is that people buy fancy cars and mansions and stuff because they think that this will get them respect and admiration from other people at the end of the day. Like if I'm driving the newest Tesla around, people will think that I'm cool and rich and that kind of stuff. But what people don't realize is that people don't actually admire the person with the fancy car or house. Instead, they're just admiring the fancy car or house itself and imagining themselves having that Tesla or having that mansion. So buying expensive things to gain respect from people never actually works because respect and admiration can't be bought. And the second point he makes about this is that there's no point being flashy about the money you're spending because true wealth is actually the money that you have not spent. And then we turn to part 4, which is how to protect your money once you've got it. Any amount of money at all needs some level of protection. And so lesson 10 here is to leave room for error. Now, broadly, there are 2 bits to this idea of making room for error. And the first part is making sure that you can technically survive if your future returns are not very good. So let's say I've got some money and I'm banking on it going up by 7%. I really should have a plan. Like if it does not go up by 7%, if it goes up by 4% or 3% or 2%, or even if it goes negative, I should be able to survive that likelihood. But the second point is that it's not just about the physical survival, it's also about the emotional survival and would we want to live that kind of lifestyle. So for example, let's say you work your job and you save up 2 years worth of expenses so you can quit your job and become a full-time YouTuber for 2 years and give that a go. In theory, you're telling yourself that you have 2 years worth of runway so that if worst case scenario, you don't succeed as a YouTuber, then 2 years down the line, your savings will run out and you can just get another job. But what you're not taking into account there is the emotional pain of seeing your savings whittle down over time. And it might just be that as you burn through 50% of your savings, at that point you start to feel emotionally, psychologically scarred and you just quit and go back to your day job because you couldn't handle the fact that you lost 50% of your savings and you're not succeeding on YouTube just yet. So the point that Morgan is making in the book is that we need to make room for these kind of emotional decisions. And the way that we behave as humans when it comes to money, which is why it's called the psychology of money, is that we act not necessarily in like fully rational economic logical terms, but we also have to take our emotions into account.
So just jumping in there, crew, and absolutely, everybody, another way to look at this is everybody's got a different risk to reward ratio, right? We have a different risk to reward tolerance. Now, this could be affected by different stages of your life, different ages. It can be affected by lots of things, but like he talks about, a lot of people got hurt in the crypto space over the past 2 years because it really, you know what I mean? It really boomed. It really did. So everybody, guess what? They thought they were suddenly a professional investor. So they were just throwing money in. Someone would say Dogecoin. They were like, yeah, all my money into Dogecoin, this into Dogecoin. And then they thought they maybe got a few grand together, whatever it was, or maybe a lot more. And then Dogecoin went, phew. Well, the people that were understanding that was possible, the people that were technical traders and actually studied this as a professional probably didn't lose money. But who lost money? Yeah, everybody that put everything on the line and were just going with a trend and then decided they were a professional investor. You're not. You weren't a trader. You were just going with a bull market. And when you can understand that, then what does that mean? Well, if you've got millions of dollars, then you probably don't want to lose them. If you don't have anything to lose, then it doesn't matter, right? So what he's talking about there is same in business, same in life. What is your risk to reward ratio or threshold when you are doing anything, including driving down the street, right? You're in a car. There's a risk to reward. Well, I want to go to the shops. It's a few miles away. I'm going to walk there or I'm going to drive there. What's the percentage of me getting killed on that way? Well, it's quite low. Right. Then I can go to the shops. So if you look at every investment, every meeting, every business opportunity, every idea, every new person in your network this way, then everything changes. That's why you'll always be safe.
Lesson number 11 is to try and avoid extreme financial commitments for your future self. And this is speaking to the kind of person that says, you know what, I know that I'm never going to buy a house, therefore I can afford to splash money when I'm young. Or someone who says, you know what, I know I'm never going to have kids, and therefore my expenses can be super high because I know I don't have to save for the kids' college fund or whatever. Now this is kind of a bad thing, because even if you are very sure that that's how you want to live your life, chances are you are not correct, and that you actually will change your mind at some point further down the line. Psychologists call this the end of history illusion. It's the idea that when you ask people how much they've changed in the last 10 years, we're pretty good at describing how we've changed. But if you ask people to predict how much they're going to change in the next 10 years, then we are really bad at doing that. And we think that we are, broadly, the people we are now are roughly the same as the people that we're going to be 10 years from now. And so given that we are really bad at predicting how our own goals and values and desires are going to change over time, and given that we're kind of hoping that unless the crypto thing really goes to the moon and fiat currency completely dies, we're still going to need money to make decisions 10 years from now. We should keep that in mind. We shouldn't make extreme financial commitments to ourselves right now. We shouldn't blow all our money for this, live fast, die young. Because by the time you're approaching the whole die young thing, you might realize, actually, I kind of want to live for another 40 years, and now you have no money, and it's kind of a bit of a struggle. And then lesson number 12 is to be reasonable rather than rational. And the point that Morgan's making here is that sometimes good decisions are not always rational, but they are reasonable. And that we have to remember that we're ultimately emotional creatures with emotional needs, not just like rational economic machines making the absolute perfectly logical decision. And I think this lesson is what I really took home, because before reading the book, I could not imagine why anyone would bother paying off the mortgage on their house. It just seemed like a dumb thing to do. Like, why would you do that? You can borrow money from a mortgage relatively cheaply. If you stick that money in stocks and shares, it will grow faster than the rate of the thing of the mortgage. If inflation happens over time, the more value of the mortgage goes down. All of these like rational economic reasons for not paying off the mortgage on your house. But I completely discounted the fact that there is a lot of emotional niceness to having paid the mortgage on your house. You feel like you have this house that you can now live in without paying a mortgage. You feel a sense of security. It helps you sleep better at night. And so if you can, and you're in that privileged position, and you want to put down a cash payment to pay off the deposit on a house, yes, technically it's kind of irrational. It's not the most economically financially legit decision to maximize your returns. But if it's the thing that helps you sleep at night, that is the thing that matters. Because ultimately, if we're playing this game of, getting and protecting and earning and continuing to retain our money rather than losing all of it, we have to also optimize for the things and the decisions that will help us sleep at night. And so maybe you might watch one of my crypto videos, or you've got a crypto bro friend who says, oh my God, you should be putting 100% of your money into crypto. But if that helps you sleep worse at night, don't do it. Put however much of your money into crypto as you are personally comfortable with, and that will be reasonable, even if it's not fully rational.
Again, love it. Lots of good points from this whole clip. But yeah, it just goes back to what you want. What he's talking about is also shooting for the stars, right? He's talking about making millions and millions and millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, the truth is we don't know if we're going to die or not, right? So often, we are going to die, I can guarantee that, but we don't know when. So often what we do is we forget to enjoy life. And this is the other thing, the psychological aspect he's not taken into consideration, is that we don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. The truth, man. We don't know if we're going to make it till next year. We don't. So often we can take things way too serious. We can restrict ourselves, refine ourselves, when the other side of it is, shouldn't we just enjoy life along the way? So if something makes you happy, and this is the thing he was starting to touch on, if something makes you ecstatically happy, and say it's a handbag, when you're happy already, but that's something that makes you ecstatically happy. We're not talking about the psychological dopamine need for purchasing, or the external validation fact for getting your self-worth pumped up. What we're talking about is actually you loving that thing, and it makes you happy every time you look at it, every time you see it. It's like getting a dog, right? Well, if you probably did the maths on a dog, then you probably wouldn't get it. It's true, right? Oh, you mean all these vet bills as it gets older? I've got to do this to travel with it across internationally. I've got to, all the food, the vet bills. This is too much. It doesn't make economical sense. But dogs are awesome. Do you know what I mean? Dogs make you ecstatically happier. They've shown that they extend your life 10 years if you give it to an older person. It's like there's so much emotional integration into these things. It's not just black or white thinking. And you've also got to remember, you got to live your life and enjoy it, man. It's like, so I'm not talking about wasting money. I'm talking about really knowing yourself in every aspect and appreciating every day to the most, and only doing things that you love. Because if that thing that you love brings you joy, man, it increases your frequency. It changes your filter in your brain. It changes the chemicals in your brain. It adjusts the neurology, the neurobiology. It's you know what I mean? There's so many more benefits. It's not just about having a bank full of money. But on the other side of it is, yeah, if we could look back at all the money that we have wasted and we could put it into an account right now, woo, right? Would be very, very happy. So, pros and cons, ifs or buts, but it's all about you and what you want in every aspect of this money journey. So, hopefully you got something out of that. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you liked my my version of reality and the way I showed that. And yeah, we're coming up to the end. It's the end of episode 351. Hope you loved it. And speaking of loving it, make sure that you're heading over to where? Well, if you're growing a business, if it's online and you want brand and brain expansion and you want to learn from one of the top marketers around, Ryan Alford, and you want to learn how I train brains and nervous systems to respond under the highest pressure and expand your thinking to what's possible more than you could even comprehend, then you need the Radical Formula. Podcast comes out, masterminds come out, masterclasses come out, product come out. You come in. That's what we want. Come in and join our community and everything that we've got available, and let's scale your brand to 7 figures. And what else? If you're creating freedom through trading, not digital brands, then guess what? You got it. Head over to thegeniustrader.club. This is the world's premier mental performance system for getting complete control of your emotions and mind. It's from pro to amateur. It's the best foundational course on the market. And yeah, you deserve it. So, thegeniustrader.club. Besides that, head over to andymurphy.online. New website coming up. And what else? Just come and hang out. Just come and hang out with me somewhere on social media. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Just type in Andy Murphy Mindset. You got it? Much, much love. Until the next time. You have an amazing week. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.